The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. These Best You EXPO talks are recorded in front of a live audience in a live event. We highly recommend that you focus on the message. As they say, what you focus on expands. Enjoy. Paul Boross. The title of Paul's talk is Pimp Your Pitch. Losing pitches comes at a price. Literally, it costs time and money to get in front of a client. Maximize your chances of winning business with this session from Paul, the pitch doctor. He shares tips and tactics for squeezing value out of every second and making sure that you win what you pitch. Now, I've worked with Paul for many years. He's a good, close friend. He's been the MC of the Best You EXPO for, well, forever. And Paul, as everyone knows, is the pitch doctor. He's a phenomenal communicator, inspiring, charismatic, and funny. So I'm sure you're going to love his talk and his energy. Thank you so much.
Step back.
Thank you.
In the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me. They couldn't afford announcements, so I had to do it myself. How are you? You well? Yes, look at those smiling faces. It's fantastic. Do you know what's great about having a really full room like this? You can stay warm. It's freezing, isn't it? It's just like, I was colder inside than outside. So how many people have seen me talk before? Well, okay, yeah. How many people haven't seen me talk before? Okay. How many people couldn't give a damn if they ever see me talk again? I like you. Honest. Yeah. The one brother. Very quick introduction. My name's Paul Boross. I am the pitch doctor. Why am I called the pitch doctor? My background is in psychology. I studied psychology at university, and then I went on into show business and the media. And then when I'd done that, I came back and realized that all the psychology I'd studied in college was only giving me this much of the picture. And I suddenly went and found all these other things like NLP and CFT and all the things that you could make things happen quicker. And what really led me into it was I had a friend who was a very big star, still is a very big star, who got stage fright. And he came to me and said, "Is there anything you can do about my stage fright?" And I didn't know what to do. But I knew one person in Europe who could do it. And so I called him up and I said, "This is a very famous person. What can you work with him?" He went for one session with this guy, and some of you may have heard of this guy, and he was cured immediately. And so I went, "I need to know what you're doing." And so what I do with people is a combination of the psychology and the stage technique, because you need both in order to move ahead. That was really the introduction. By the way, this is an interactive process. Okay? I don't want to just be lecturing at you. I want you to join in. I want you to actually share. If you've got questions, please ask the questions. If you don't agree with something I say, just put your hand up and go, "Bullshit." Okay? It won't offend me. Because actually, if you understand the learning model, sometimes people need to challenge in order to get to a new place. So feel free that this is an interaction. Some of you are feeling freer than others. Some of you are going, "Oh, good. I'm going to do bullshit quite soon." What we're going to be talking about for the next 40-odd minutes is the importance of having great communication skills in order to pitch more effectively. The essence of it is we need to understand what we're doing. How many people in this room love to pitch, actually love to stand up and present? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How many people hate it, can't stand it? All right. How many people can't count? The reason I ask that is because the first things that you are going to see on here are 2 words. The first word you need to do a good pitch is passion. Nobody will listen to you talk about anything unless you are passionate about it. You need to understand that actually passion is something that people feel. Because have you ever been sold something by somebody who stood there, or maybe somebody at your office who went, really excited to be here? Whole team's very excited. And we think that you're going to love our product. Gets you nowhere. You have to have, I'm very lucky because I do a job which I love. I get to meet people all the time, and I'm passionate about finding out about people and what they do. It is the most interesting thing in the world. So whatever you want to do in your business, if you want to become a trainer, you're a teacher, if you want to sell your product, the first thing you have to remember is that all the people who do this best have passion. The next thing is a belief system that supports you. Now, the reason I asked you the question of who loves pitching and presenting was to understand what your belief system was. Because if your belief system, and a lot of you did have that, I don't really like it, I don't really like standing up and talking in front of people. What that does, in psychological terms, whatever you say to yourself becomes your reality. So if you walk around going, I'm going to have to do a presentation, but I don't really want to do it. And then you go home and you tell your significant other, I'm scared of doing the presentation. What happens is you talk yourself into that state. So at the end of this 40-odd minutes, what I want you to do is I'm going to ask the same question. Or if I ask you the same question, I want you all to put your hands up and just say, I love pitching. What's the alternative? The alternative is to go around and hamper yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well say you love it. Agreed? Yeah, by the way, this is yes. This is no. This is I'm probably French. Utilize your nerves. We'll talk about nerves as we go along so you can find a way to do it. Engage. The amount of people, even in this personal development business, who don't engage with the audience. They don't interact with the audience. You have to have some kind of interaction with the audience, because otherwise you are the distant person. It's like if I talk to you from back here, or by the way, I would never talk from here. Oh, you can see me up there. You like it when I'm up there. Okay. I'll do that here then. Is that better? Do you like that? Then I can't walk up and down. I might go up and down then. Do you like it better at the back? Yeah, you see at the back they're nodding. You liked it down here, didn't you? I'll do a bit of both. Everything. Interaction. Good eye contact. Before we leave here today, I am going to teach you the eye contact that Bill Clinton does. Bill Clinton is a master of actually drawing people in. Has anybody here met Bill Clinton? Oh, 2 of us. Good, you and me. What's your name, madam? Maz with a Z. Mags. Where did you meet him, Mags? Can we have a mic for Mags, please? Because I don't know about anybody else, but I can barely hear Mags. There's Mags. Mags is now going to do a song.
could do a song if you liked. But
Sorry, Mags, go on.
I worked at Lancaster House at the time, and I was conference officer there, and he came over in connection with a conference that we were hosting.
And what was it like when you met him?
I had already some ideas in my head about what it would be like, because it was post Monica Lewinsky, so you kind of had this thing in your head about him anyway.
She had a thing in her head. No.
Yeah. He was actually a really nice guy, I thought, from the brief interaction that we had.
Max says this really nice guy. Now, obviously, he was tainted slightly with some of the things he's done. But when he meets you, he absolutely captivates you. And you go into a little Clinton bubble and you feel like you're the only person in the world for that moment. And that is an extraordinary skill. I met him. I'm a member of Soho House. I don't know if you know the club Soho House. And as an original member, the management there said, actually, do you want to meet him when he comes in to do a talk? And I'm like, yes, he's a hero of mine. And we met him, and I'm a former musician, and he's a musician, and we just talked about music. But he never once looked away and saw if there was anyone more interesting over my shoulder. He just held that gaze. And I felt like $1 million. 2-3 minutes talking to him, and he managed to make me feel like I was the most important person in the room. When I'd met him, I actually had to go and leave and went down the stairs to meet a CEO, another West End location. And I didn't even mention this to the CEO, but we had a meeting. It went on for about an hour and a half, and we talked and we got on really well. And so I said to the CEO at the end, do you want to come back to Soho House for a drink? And he went, yeah, that'd be nice, actually. And I got back to Soho House, and there's a door at ground level, and I pushed the door, and you couldn't get in because there were 2 Secret Service people behind the door. So eventually I got in, and as we're going up the stairs with the CEO behind me, we pass Bill 2 hours later coming down the stairs. And Bill turns to me and goes, good to meet you, Paul. And I was like, oh my God, 2 hours later. And then I remember the CEO's behind me. And what the hell is he thinking? Which reminded me of a story about the little English Cockney guy who goes to Las Vegas and wins big on roulette. Wins $100,000, and his ambition is to take one of the dancing girls out for dinner. So he gets this dancing girl, takes her out for dinner at Caesar's Palace, and he's buying her the best champagne, and he's buying her the flowers when they come around, and she's steely-faced. Nothing, giving him nothing at all. Just out of the corner of his eye, he sees Frank Sinatra coming in. So he goes past, he excuses himself, goes up to Frank Sinatra, taps Frank Sinatra on the shoulder, and goes, excuse me, Mr. Sinatra, I don't mean to bother you, but I love all your records and that. I'm a big fan of yours, and I know you're a man of the world. He goes, yeah? He goes, could you do us a favour? And Frank Sinatra goes, what is it, kid? He goes, I'm trying to get off with this girl over there, getting nowhere. When you come past, when you leave, could you come and tap me on the shoulder and go, hey, Al, how you doing? Might help. Just then, the bouncers drag him off. So he sits there, he buys her more champagne, he buys chocolates, he buys more oysters, everything, nothing. Frank Sinatra's party comes past, and then they just leave. And he sits there and he goes, 10 seconds later, Frank Sinatra turns on his heel, comes back to the table, taps him on the shoulder and goes, hey, Al, how you doing? And the guy goes, not now, Frank, I'm talking to the bird. Which is kind of what I wanted to do with Clinton, but I didn't have the courage. But don't complicate things. Mags just said, that people I was speaking in Cannes in the south of France, and I said to the audience, what did Bill Clinton have behind him in the Oval Office? And somebody shouted out, Monica. At which point I pointed out that I was pretty sure that she was in front of him. But you're making up your own jokes now. But actually what Bill Clinton had behind him in the Oval Office was a simple message. And the message was, it's the economy, stupid. Because when you are pitching something, you have to have that kind of clarity. You have to be clear about what you want people to do. What is your proposition? Clarity is everything. Enthusiasm is the last piece of the puzzle. If you want anybody to go into any state, this is in your personal life, this is if you'll go up on stage, this is if you're pitching a product, you have to go into that state. So if you're in a state where you go, happy to be here, you will all go into that state. If you've got enthusiasm, other people will naturally, from a psychological model, go into that state. Does this make sense? Yeah, good. And confidence. We can build confidence in anyone. Confidence is one of those things I get asked about all the time. Can you make anybody confident? And the answer is yes. I do a TV show for Sky called School of Hard Knocks, which you may or may not have heard of, where we take a group of young unemployed men who've been in prison, homeless, had terrible upbringings, and we give them the confidence through rugby to get jobs at the end of the series. Anybody can have confidence.
If you're interested in working with me, contributing to the magazine, maybe speaking at any of our many events around the world, partnering or licensing The Best You, go to www.thebestyou.co.
Build instant rapport, strategic positioning, all these things I could go on about. Relationships, but I'm going to rush on. Attitude. Attitude determines your altitude, how high you will get. If you have the right attitude, and by that I mean your belief system's in the right place, your enthusiasm, your passion's in the right place, nobody can stop you. You are unstoppable. And listening. The weird thing is that you learn much more when you listen. I work with the top 100 leaders at a very small company you've probably never heard of called Google. They'll never get anywhere, to be honest with you. And Google hired Bill Clinton to speak to the top 100 leaders, and they paid him $600,000 for an hour and 20 minutes, which is almost as much as I'm getting today. If Bernardo's listening. But actually, Bill Clinton's message was, great leaders are great listeners. And if you want to lead in any part of your life, you have to learn to listen twice as much as you speak. Now, the funny thing was that I got a call 2 days later from the head of EMEA at Google who said, you know, Bill Clinton said great leaders are great listeners. I don't think our leaders are very good. Could you come and give a day's seminar on listening skills to the leaders? So I did. I just like this picture, to be honest with you. I found this picture and I went, how can I not have that? It's brilliant. When I first started working for Google nearly 11 years ago now, the top leaders used to come over. And Google have a policy of only employing people with a first-class degree from a first-class university. And so you get very, very intelligent people, but they want 60% of them to be salespeople. And there's a different thing. So I was employed to make intelligent people into empathetic people who could sell. Now, one of the things that the Americans who came over said to me was, Paul, I think that about 80% of our people don't understand why rapport is important to the business process. And I'm like, what? 80%? He goes, sure. A load of our people just want to show up and throw up. And I thought, that's one of the greatest expressions I've ever heard. And they've ever heard as well. Show up and throw up. Because that's what people tend to do. My favorite expression is you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Do you know how long it takes somebody to make an impression of you or to get an impression of what you're like? 2 to 3 seconds. It's extraordinary how quickly. And with that in mind, I'm going to ask you all in this room to pick a number between 1 and 3, i.e. you can pick 1, pick 2, pick 3. But once you've picked that number in your head, you have to stick to it. Okay, have we got that? It's not too complicated, is it really? Can we pick a number between 1 and 3? Yes, I think we can, Paul. Okay, you've all got either 1, 2 or 3. You picked it in your head. In a moment, I'm going to ask you all to stand up and introduce yourself to at least 6 people around you. Shake hands. Introduce yourselves. The only proviso is that when you shake hands and you introduce yourself, you have to hold your handshake for the equivalent number of seconds to the number you thought of, okay? So if you thought of the number 1, you hold your handshake for 1 second. Thought of number 2, hold your handshake 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Make sense? Yeah, don't talk about it. Just stand on your feet, introduce yourself to 6 people around you. Okay, slowly start to make your way back to your seats. That was quite interesting, wasn't it? Some of you fell a little bit in love. You know who you are. So, very easy question. I don't mean the person, by the way. What kind of person did you have the greatest connection with? The same, who had the same as you, yes? The person who had the same as you. Okay, that seems fairly simple. But what happened when you met those weird people? You know the ones who aren't like us. I saw your reaction. Some of you going, what's up with him? Isn't that bizarre, though, that you have that reaction? Even though you knew it was an exercise, you knew it was just a thing, you still all automatically go, bugger. It's like that thing where you do, I'll come round here and do it. Am I going to feed back if I do this? Come round? No. Do you know that thing where you say, could you stand up, please, sir? Could you stand up? Just come this way, because he's worried about feedback. And you know you do the handshake thing, and you go, we're just going to shake hands, okay? Yeah? You know that? I'm sorry. But do you know that feeling you get when you shake, somebody puts a wet fish in your hand? Now, what do you do immediately? You go, you did the noise, didn't you? And you went, ugh. Of course. Because, now, the reason I tell you this is because if you're pitching anything, guess what? You'd better be thinking early about what kind of impression you are making. Because, like that, people will make an impression of you. You have to think about what you're wearing. Up to 93% of people, or how you are groomed, will affect people. Sometimes you'll have just walked into the room and people will go, I know what that's like. Well, that's what they said when I wore that dress, anyway, to be honest with you. But do you understand how quick we make those decisions? And you need to know that because pitches happen in seconds. People have normally decided if they're going to buy or not going to buy based on something really simple, like a handshake, like how you're groomed. My definition of sales is really simple. Sales is just the transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another. That's what it is. We are very unlikely to buy a lot of things from people we don't like. We like, as human beings, to like people before we buy stuff from people. It's crucial to us. Does anybody recognize this man? He's been on television. Huh? Donald Trump? No. Oh my God, Donald Trump. Don't get me started. I used to live in America, and I was doing a gig once in Hamburg, and I sat next to this American guy who was a tall, very handsome black guy with dreadlocks, and he was really tall. He was like 7 foot tall, and he'd been a college basketball player, but he hadn't quite made it in college basketball, but he'd had a 10-year career playing in Hamburg. Lovely guy. And it was just after Barack Obama had been elected. And he said to me, I never believed that a black man would become president of the United States. And I've spent a lot of time there. I know the middle of America, it's really problematic and everything. But I said to him, and it's something that you should all realize, I said to him that what he did is he went meta to color anything, because he was so congruent. And it's one of those things in pitches you have to understand is crucial. Congruence is that when you say something, you sound like you mean it. You also look like you mean it. And that is what Barack Obama has. He is extraordinary. Watch videos of him. You just automatically believe. People call it statesmanlike, but I call it completely congruent. That actually, he actually pushed the racial barrier down and people just went, this is a great, smart guy. Why? Because he's a brilliant communicator and brilliantly congruent. In this country, we have politicians who I don't think are quite that congruent. Anybody related to Ian Duncan Smith in the room? Not admitting it anyway, are you? Do you know that Ian Duncan Smith, do we know who he is? Yes, Ian Duncan Smith? No, he's actually a minister in the Conservative government, and he is actually minister for unemployment, I think. I don't think he calls himself that, but he's... And he was leader of the Conservative Party, and he was one of the worst communicators. And so he called himself the quiet man. And he went, never underestimate the power of the quiet man. And every time he stood up in Parliament, the opposition benches used to go, shh, which was very childish, but always made me laugh. And I saw him on Newsnight, and I saw some of the most incongruent behaviour I've ever seen. He was being interviewed by Jeremy Paxman, and Jeremy Paxman said, Ian Duncan Smith, will you be leader of the Conservative Party at the next election? And in a tight headshot like this, you saw Ian Duncan Smith go, absolutely, I will definitely be leader of the Conservative Party. I'm looking at it and go, oh my God, he doesn't even internally believe this stuff himself. And that's the scary thing. Sometimes we leak things that we don't mean to do. In poker, they call them tells. If you want to be a great pitcher, a great communicator, a great leader, you have to understand what they do. They communicate with incredible alacrity. I'm going to show you a picture now which I promise you has not been doctored, has not been photoshopped, has not been touched. But I just want you to get the impression of what is happening in this photograph and who you would vote for. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a real picture. The first televised presidential debate in America, Senator McCain walks on and trips. The world's press get that picture. It goes around the world. I can't remember which politician became president, but I'll have a wild guess. The reason I talk about this is we are all making decisions at all times about people. All of us are making decisions about people. Has anybody worked in Russia? No? Good grief. No, that was just you adjusting your hair. No, okay, that's fine. When you work the first time I worked in Russia, I couldn't believe as I worked, there's a room about this many people, and everybody had a face like this. And as a psychologist, I can read if people are quite happy and everything, but their faces were like that. So at the first break, I went up to a guy and I said, what's with the face? He goes, oh, very sorry. Russian face always look angry. But we enjoy very much. And I said, if you're enjoying it, could you tell your face? Just make it so much easier. But we make instant decisions about people. Sometimes in big seminars that I do all over the world, I take 6 people out of the audience and I take them outside. And what I do with them is I give them each a way to behave when they come in, a mode of behavior. And then I bring them in and I do a catwalk with them where they have to walk up and down. And everybody in the audience has a piece of paper and writes down what they're giving off, what signs they're giving off. So the first one walks in and everybody writes down, oh, thinks he's God, you know, full of himself. And everything. Second one walks in, they go, oh, shy, diffident, timid. And I do this with all 6 of them until I finally line them all up. And I say, what did you have for number 1? And they go, thinks he's God, probably American. It's Americans in the audience, lost them. Number 2, what did you think of them? And I think, oh, shy, mousy, a little bit of a wallflower, and everything. Number 3, number 4. And then I reveal what I asked them each to do. And I asked each of them to be neutral, which is a very dangerous place because you might think that your face in repose is lovely. But other people will look at you and go, miserable sod. So actually, when you go into a meeting or you go on stage or you go to pitch something, make sure that your face is in a position whereby people can actually detect that you are a nice person. A smile. As our American friends say, a smile is the shortest distance between 2 people.
To find out more about our latest projects, get a free coaching lesson, or download my book, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
Essentially, you cannot not communicate. We're always communicating something, whether we think we are or we think we aren't. And our job is to take care over what we're communicating. This is the old Morabian study, which I'm sure some of you know. Professor Morabian did a study over 16 years of how people took on impressions of people, how they reacted to them, and what affected it. And those of you who nodded know that only 7% of how people are affected by you is the words, the actual content that you say. 7%. 38% is the tone, the way you say it, whilst 55% is your body language. So actually, anybody who used to be scared of public speaking or pitches or presentations, all you've got to remember is as long as you sound like you know what you're doing, most people don't listen. Because if I lose my way now and I go, I have no idea of what I'm going to say next, but as soon as I remember what I'm going to say, I'm going to say it. If I say it with enough panache, you'll all just sit there and go, yeah, not really listening, but he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. That's the way we work. Do we know this picture? Okay, for an extra point, who painted it? Oh, Munch. Oh, intelligent audience. Very rarely get that many people going, Munch, Edvard Munch. It's a great picture. If you know the history of it, it was stolen and then they found it and it was then sold for 120 million euros. I'm going to be on my stand over there selling a much better picture for $9.99. I just think that's brilliant, actually. That's one of my favourite pictures. The reason I have the picture up there is to talk about nervousness. People sometimes have nervousness. How many people in this room sometimes get nervous before pitching or presenting? Okay? Just so you know, there are two types of people in the world, those who didn't put your hands up. There are people who get nervous, and there are liars. Everybody gets nervous. It's just how you deal with the nerves. It's actually coping. Some of the best tip I can give you for nerves is to actually just call them something else. If you call nerves excitement, the same physiological things are actually happening us when we're excited as when we're nervous. But the word nervous acts on our brain as like, oh God, I'm nervous. The word excited, wow, can't wait to do this. Exciting. And I think we've established there may be a couple of Americans in the audience. Yes? Anybody? Yeah, not going to admit to it now, are you? Okay. I used to live there. I love certain things about America. I love the warmth. I would rather somebody said, have a nice day to me than ignored me in Tesco's. You know what I mean? And just tutted under their breath. Could I have 2 carrier bags? I don't. I've got 10p. And everything. But the Americans, what drives me mad is they actually have a top 10 list for everything. And everything. And this is a real top 10 list of the fears in America. At number 10 is water, but the Americans have to be very specific about it and say, as in swimming and drowning, not drinking. Thanks for that bit of help. Storms are number 9. Public transportation, especially planes. And then it just goes on and on. Crowds, death, spiders, heights, confined spaces, snakes. But do you know what the number 1 fear in America is? Speaking in public. That's Americans, ladies and gentlemen, afraid to speak in public. They do nothing but speak in public as far as I can see. They never stop speaking. In America, if you go and do a soundbite and somebody, they will give you a perfect 15-second soundbite. Interview somebody on the street here, they go, well, I don't really know, I didn't really see it. It was... Americans, but actually that's not what scares me. What really scares me about this is that death is number 6. How did that happen? There's a comedian called Jerry Seinfeld, an American comedian, lovely guy. And when Jerry saw this thing, he said, that means that the majority of people at a funeral would rather be in the casket than making the eulogy. which is fairly mad. And by the way, if there are any film producers in the room, if you want to make a really scary film, don't make snakes on a plane, make speaking to snakes on a plane. And then you'll have a hit. I've only got 5 minutes left. I can't believe it's gone so quickly. So I'm going to do 2 things with you that you can take away. I'm going to give you the Bill Clinton connection that I have modeled from him. It's a way where you can connect with anybody, anytime. Now, when we were growing up, we all had parents who actually told us what to do when we met people. Yes? Yes, at the back? Do you like it up the back? No. Yes, that was that joke, Monique. But we all had parents and teachers and religious leaders who said, when you meet people, you are supposed to do certain things, correct? Shout out the things you are supposed to do. Smile. Speak nicely, did you say? Shake hands. Smile, speak nicely. Say hello, good. Look in the eyes, good. Be polite, very nice, be polite. So we all agree, be polite, be respectful, be polite, be respectful, look in the eyes, smile, say their name, do all those things. Except when I said look in the eyes, you all just nodded. When in fact, when you look in someone's eyes, could you just stand up for me, sir? Come over here. When you look in both eyes, you look vaguely psychotic. If you want to be seen as pleasant, you look in one eye. See? Yeah, listen. Did you see? He went that. What I want you to do is I want to try that with the person next to you. I want you to look in, shake hands and look in one eye. And then turn away and shake hands and look in both eyes. And notice the difference. Come on, play the game. I'm sorry. I know this. I know, my love, we won't be doing this. Yeah. Did you notice it? It's kind of weird, isn't it? But now when you look, I work all over the world. I worked in Germany. And somebody told me, oh, we have all been told to look at the bridge of the nose. And I'm like, that's crazy. But some people are out there telling you, if you want to be seen as pleasant, you look in one eye. Now, there's another bit to the Bill Clinton thing. I know that thing that when you look in, hi Trish, how are you? Nice to see you. That's Trish, who I haven't seen for 130 years. And Trish has beautiful blue eyes. And you're thinking, what's he doing? Why is he telling us about Trish's beautiful blue eyes? Because that's the second part of the puzzle. When you meet somebody, you look in one eye, take note of their eye colour, and what happens is you automatically connect with them. Because there's a big difference when you go, hi, how are you? Yeah, nice to meet you. To actually going, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And if you force yourself to take note of their eye colour, they go, we have connected. And that's really when the good stuff happens. Now, the third bit of this is a little bit more esoteric. It's a bit more hippy-dippy, this one, okay? So you're going to have to go with me on this because it is real. And as a psychologist, I can tell you it works. When you look in one eye, you take note of their eye colour. By the way, when you take note of their eye colour, you don't go up to them and go, blue eyes! Inside your head, this stuff, okay? Just so you know. You look in their eyes, take note of their eyes. The third thing is, when you meet somebody, you silently wish them well, wish them good health, wish them blessings, whatever it is. Now you think, hold on, that's going a bit too far, Paul. But actually what happens is we've got hundreds of little muscles in our face. And actually, our faces change when we think something nice about somebody. And so ever since we've been babies, we've been used to reading facial signals. We've been lying in the crib, looking up at people going, does he like his rattle? Does he like it? So we recognize it. There's whole social science experiments. There's social science, I'm doing 2 more minutes and then I'm off. It's whole social science experiments about when babies' eyes clear and they show them the smiley face, the babies smile. Because they're hardwired to recognize them. Show them the little sad face, babies cry. So from now on, when you meet somebody, look in one eye, take note of their eye colour, wish them something nice, and your pitch will become perfect. Last question. How many people here absolutely love pitching? Yes, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a delight. I've been Paul Boross. My stand is over there. Come and meet me later. Thank you very much. Thank you.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.